welcome back to Elful Deco. Today we are going to decorate our own phone case with resin and dry flowers. This is the case that we're making. Here are the dry flowers, paper moths, and I added a little bit of glitter to make it magical. I did not protect this case with anything, I just poured over it, and I will show you how I did that in this video. I will share all the materials that I use for this case and any tips and tricks that I have for creating resin phone cases. Let's get started. This is the phone case that we're working with. The brand is JE Tech, and I got this case off Amazon. What I like about this case is that it has a bumper around the edges, so when we pour our resin, thin enough layers, the resin will not spill over the edges of the case. I will try to show it on camera, but it's a little difficult to see since it's clear, but it's a very small bump around the edges. Some other clear cases will have smooth rounded edges, so if we resin those, the resin will spill over. I purchased several brands before finding this one, and now I don't know if all their cases are like this, but I am making a case for my iPhone 13 Pro, and this is the case that I'm using. We'll set the case on a cup and let's go measure our resin. We only need a small amount of resin, so we're going to be using a medicine cup. It measures up to 30 milliliters and we'll mix our resin with our usual plastic mixing stick. The resin that we're using is Totabolt's high performance resin, the slow hardener version. It's a 2-to-1 ratio resin, and I have a calibrated dispenser just for this resin to make my life easier. The lever on the side will dispense both parts at once, just the right amount we need. Link to the resin is in the description if you want to try it out. Let's go back to our table to mix it. When we mix our resin, we want to mix slow and steady to reduce the amount of bubbles. I will start off real-time mixing, then speed it up because it's really slow. We want to make sure that there are no streaks in our resin and it's not foggy. That's how we know when the mixing is complete. Now we're going to design the phone case. This case is for myself to use. I wanted some florals and some paper moths. These are some florals leftovers from variety packs that I used previously, and some paper specimens from Moth and Myth. I decided to make it a little more magical, so we will add some glitter to it as well. We have Wisteria Petal from Dreaming of Glitters, no longer available, but I just wanted to let you know where I got it from. We're going to pour a little bit of resin into the center of the case and then spread it out. We want a really thin layer for this. I noticed the foam was making the case a little unleveled, so I removed it. But I chose this resin for this case because it is a thinner resin. You can see how thin it is as I am spreading the resin over the case. I'm also actually spreading the resin really slowly. I sped this up like 4 times to make sure that I'm not spilling over the edges. So that's why I'm spreading the resin so slowly. Notice I did not protect this case whatsoever. No glue protection layer or liquid latex or tape to protect the inside of the case from resin drips. I'm relying on my thin layers and the bumpers of this case that I was mentioning before. If resin gets inside the case, then that will affect how the phone fits. You can of course protect the inside of your case from resin drips. Sometimes I just like to take the risk. For this first layer, you honestly don't even need an entire layer of resin. You can just dab resin onto where you plan to place your flowers, so the resin will hold the flowers down in place. Then you can go over it with a thin top coat after that sets. The way I'm making the phone case in this video is just how I make my phone cases. It's not the right way or the only way, so feel free to experiment with your own case. When the thin layer of resin is down, I begin my phone case designing. As always, no placement planning, just going with the flow. Now I think I'm done and I'm happy with how this case looks. Let me show you a close-up of the case with the florals and side view. We are back for the second layer. For this layer, we are going to do a clear top coat to make sure everything is covered or coated in resin. We have some bits and pieces of the flower sticking above the case. If you want it completely flat, you can sand it down. I just leave it and make sure it's coated in resin. It leaves a little bump, but it doesn't affect anything in my opinion. We will be mixing up some resin together again in our little medicine cup. We are using Totalbolt tabletop resin this time. Apologies for the bottles being so in your face, but these are the larger containers and the camera is set a little bit lower to be closer to the phone case. Totalbolt's tabletop resin is a 1:1 resin ratio. It's meant to top coat things, so this is perfect for the top coat of this phone case. I am choosing this resin for the second layer because it's a thicker resin, so it won't spill over the edges easily. The same mixing rules apply for this resin. We mix slow and steady until the resin is completely mixed, meaning no streaks and no fogginess in the mixture. It's sped up in this clip since I already showed you an example of real-time mixing. This one is a little bit thicker, so it'll probably be a bit more bubbly compared to the high performance resin we used in our first layer. That's okay since we're going to be pouring a really thin layer, so the bubbles will have more time to float to the surface for us to pop with a heat gun. Now let's coat the top of this phone case. Pour a very small amount and spread it over the entire case. And I mean a very, very small amount. This is more of coating and not really pouring because we don't want to over pour. Drag the resin from the center to the edges and stop at the edge of the case. Be very careful not to get any resin spilling over the edges. Since we did not protect the inside of the case, the cleanup would be messy if anything spilled. Notice that at some points you might not even see that I am spreading the resin, but I am the entire time. The layer is just really thin. I'll show you a close-up when we're done. Add more resin as you go if you need to, but remember, just a very small amount each time. Now we're done with the top coat. Wave a heat gun over the case to pop any bubbles at the surface. Here is a close-up of the case after the second layer. You see some parts of the flower sticking out, but I made sure everything has been covered in resin. You can also see that the resin is pretty much at the top of the case. There's a slight dome effect. Just leave it and don't add any more. We'll let the case fully cure before using it. I left this case untouched for 2 days just to let it fully harden and cure a little longer. I also got some beautiful sunlight to show off this phone case in, so I set up outside and it really brings out the best in resin. The glitters shift colors and it's so magical with all the little sparkles. And this is no filter on the clip. Let's see the case on the phone itself. I normally film on my phone, so right now I'm filming on my iPad because the phone is on camera, so I apologize for the weird angle and quality of this clip. But we can still see how lovely this phone case is, especially on the phone. I love it. Good thing this is mine because I don't think I'll be able to let it go. The florals are so pretty and the moths look like they're flying. The colors go so well together, especially with the phone. You can see that the flowers aren't popping up and no resin spills at all, so we did a pretty good job with this phone case. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed making this resin phone case with me, and I hope you learned a lot of tips and tricks for when you make your own phone case. Since I made this for myself, it is not available on my site, but if you are interested in a custom, you can send me an email through my contact form, or you can find the email in my YouTube bio. If you have any questions or feedback, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next time.